So welcome back, everyone, to another incredible episode of Chat with Dan here for today. I mean, what can I say? I'm already speechless and we haven't even started yet. She's back again. The incredible, the amazing, the badass, the superstar, the one and only, the superhero. I mean, I can go all night here. Arielle, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you, Dan? It's just such a pleasure every time.
You know, it's, as I said here, I'm already speechless. I mean, what better way to have an incredible, super badass week? Also, an incredible finish off of an epic day that to be chatting with someone as badass and legendary as you again. You know what I mean?
Oh my God, it is my honor, Dan, I have to say.
I mean, it's always the best to have you here. So.
Oh, stop! You're too kind. Thank you. I'm very grateful to be here.
There you go. Now, if you are new to the channel, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, follow. It helps a lot. But also in the description below, you're gonna find all of our real social media. By this point, you should know why she's super badass. In case you're not, the good thing is that every time she's on the show, she keeps showing why she's super badass. So you're probably gonna get it on this one as well. So we're cool. Now, without further ado, let's jump in. So I want to start this whole new conversation with the first question, which is, over the years, how have you seen female representations in film evolve? Do you think that the industry is making truly any progress, or does it feel like surface level change basically?
I think it's been a bit of both, if I'm being completely honest. I think trends seem to happen in any work environment, or during modern age. I mean, trends are a huge thing, and I think trends were a big thing when the Me Too movement happened, and then everyone just wanted to get females in front of the camera, but the work wasn't being done behind the scenes necessarily. But there has been huge. I mean, there's always progress. I think there's still progress to be done, but it's been very remarkable. And there's been women in that have been working for years that have been doing their part and being that stepping stone, and then people like my generation and the generation coming, can really just keep hopefully building on that. But yeah, I think it's been a double-edged sword. I think obviously I'm sure some people just shoved people like females in front of the camera just to say that they, oh, look, we added more diversity and we added more females, but there wasn't any in the writer's room or behind the camera. But now there really is change, and women are taking charge of their own projects and putting other women and a bunch of people in those places that they weren't before. So yeah, I think, again, there's been huge progress, but there's also more progress to be done. And again, double-edged sword. So I'm sure some people have used it as a trend and some haven't.
And in what ways do you think representation in front of the camera has influenced opportunities for women, directors, writers, and producers?
I think it's been huge. I think seeing women in front of the camera in general is it's very inspiring, and it can be possible that it has nothing to do with necessarily the position that you want to have. But what I loved about film so much is that it's storytelling, but it's such an inspiring feeling, and it just stirs some stuff out of you, right? Like, who hasn't gone to see a badass action movie and you come out thinking that you can conquer the world and fight a bunch of bad guys, right? So I think it's been very encouraging for others to try their hands, but sometimes it takes some people that are in front of the camera. Like, a great example of this is Nicole Kidman, where a couple of years ago, she made a pledge that I think it was to work with at least one female director a year. And so far, she's worked with 17 of them in 7 years. I don't know if these are the exact statistics, but it's so impressive. But it takes someone of her caliber and, notoriety to really bring that in and, be a voice for people who don't necessarily have a voice yet in places that, obviously were dominated by men. So yeah, I think it's taken a lot of these actresses to speak up and then bring in female directors and people who have more notoriety and superstardom maybe to bring them into these spaces. So I think it's made a huge impact and a huge difference. I also think that's where the authenticity comes from when a movie about a woman is told by a woman. I think it has a different connotation a lot of the times. Like, let's say, the movie with Nicole Kidman that recently came out, Baby Girl, it's been produced by a woman. Barbie, to name a few. The Substance that just came out, I don't know if you've seen The Substance, but Demi Moore, who's now getting recognized after years of not being recognized. I think almost only a female could have made that movie in the tone that it has and had the message to follow through that it did, because again, it was told by a woman.
And how do you think the portrayal of women in film affects how women see themselves in real life. Do you think somehow film shape society, yeah, kind of a little bit of society expectations?
Yeah, I mean, depending on kind of what the story is telling, I think now we're expanding so much of our genre. I think prior it would have definitely been huge, and women would have maybe only seen themselves in one avenue because so much content wasn't being made. Versus now, like it's definitely expanding, which I really love. I think there's so many different storytellings now from female point of views that have helped a lot of people. So I think it has shaped throughout the years, but I think now it's definitely starting at the diversity pool of there's all sorts of women out there, you know what I mean, and different storytelling about them that people can relate to. So yes, I think it affects how women often see themselves, but again, now it's expanding that like you can almost find something, anything that you know you relate to compared to a few years ago where it was maybe just the housewife and the damsel in distress. And now, you know, there's franchises led by women that, you know, are super empowered and they're taking charge. And I think that's huge, right? Like there's no right or wrong answer of how, you know, if you're a lover girl, you can find something for lover girls. And if you're the, you know, the hero that doesn't need a man, then you can absolutely find that as well, right? Like, you know, there's no right or wrong answer, but I think the pool is definitely expanding so that you can always find something that like you truly see yourself in.
What are some of the more subtle ways the industry still limits female representation that the average viewer might not notice?
I mean, if we really want to get technical, we can say equal pay. Yeah, I mean, I think there's still a bunch of subtle little ways. I think it's also when it comes to recognition, women have often had a harder time. I think like someone who's a great example of this is Viola Davis,
I was gonna say
where
that.
she's quite literally the youngest, like I don't know if she's the youngest EGOT winner, but she is an EGOT winner, which is a tremendous accomplishment. It's insane. And she's worked her butt off for years, and she's just like almost like whole discography and everything is just like it's huge. And people don't nearly often talk about her at all. So yeah, I mean, I think there's always little subtle ways. I think it's also some men tend to retaliate when again the pendulum's swinging both ways. So right now, I think it's very heavy. Like men are nothing, women are everything, and that gets retaliated a lot from men. So I think there's a bunch of little subtle ways that are going to get better with time. It starts with equal pay. It starts with recognition, and it starts with just opening people's minds and letting women in the processes of every single category of filmmaking.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, yeah. Okay. I mean, of course, that we all know that at some point you're gonna work with Viola Davis as well. So
I would cry. I really would. That woman is extraordinary to me. And it also takes it takes sometimes men to speak up in places. It's like Timothy Chalamet just shouted her out in his speech, I believe at SAG Awards. And yeah, like sometimes it takes someone in a different position. It is also going to take men to talk about it, where they don't, you know, they don't let their egos take charge and just want to be equal. I think that's always been the game, is to be equal to men.
I do think that somehow, I mean, yeah, definitely we're still a long, but a really long way to actually have
Hmm.
like equality somehow.
Hmm.
But one of the good, I mean, one of the things that I'm like, okay, at least there's some sparks every now and then. The fact that now with social media and everything is now like more accessible. Everybody can actually raise their voice, like tell the story, things like that. I think at least that can make like a little bit more awareness to the situation. And hey, at the end, if I think it should be kind of equal, if both are doing the exact same thing, just because one has like a
Hmm.
different name as the other, I don't find it that you should pay them different. You know what I mean? So.
No, no. And it's also when it comes to stuff like age, like, you know what I mean? That's what the substance was heavily about as well. It's like there's so many pressures on women compared to men in a lot of tiny little ways. And it's like we talked about Marvel, but it's like a huge debate online was like when Captain Marvel came out, oh, she doesn't smile, oh, she's cocky, oh, she's this. Is she that drastically different from the male superheroes? No, but there's so much pressure on women, you know, to put a smile on their face. And it's like it's also, don't even talk about having babies or turning 30 in the industry, because prior to that it was like, oh, you're turning 30, your career is dead, which is bonkers, where like men are turning 35 and they're like, oh, your career's just getting started. Like a man becomes a dad or an actor becomes a dad, no one bats an eye. An actress becomes a mom, oh my God, your career is over. Why is my career over? You know what I mean? Like
Uh-huh.
it's little pressures like that where oftentimes men don't have to think about that stuff, because regardless if people like to admit it or not, society has always favored men. And it's going to take a while before the balance is truly equal. And it takes people to constantly fight and constantly go there, but it takes people to speak up. And I think now we're entering a world where there's women that in the past have been speaking up for years, Jane Fonda being one of them. So yeah, recognition, opportunities, like, you know what I mean? And it's changing the game of your life is not over when you turn 30. My goodness, it should just be starting at that point. And I say this not being in my 30s, but I can't wait to see what life has in store for me back then.
What advice would you give to young women who want to enter the film industry and help shape the future of representation?
I There would be no bigger supporter than me, and I would absolutely tell them absolutely never give up. And I still tell myself this constantly, because I have such a long way to go and so many things to learn, and I'm so eager to, and I'm so excited to. But put yourself out there every chance you get. Every no is another door to a yes. Like, you know what I mean? Rejection is just redirection. And if you really do believe in something, fight for that. And you will make a change, and you trying is making the change. And that's huge. Like, don't ever let anybody tell you no, or that you can't do something, because that's someone else's limiting beliefs putting it on you, and that's not your fault, and that's not your thing to bear. So absolutely go for it.
I
And
like
be a
it. I mean,
sponge. Learn from anyone that you can.
totally. I mean, at the end, we're all shining stars. You know what I mean?
100%.
So let's all shine and have a good time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, moving
Yeah.
to our next topic here, which is, the whole intersection of acting and personal identity. Tell me, how much of
Mhm.
yourself do you bring into characters? Do you find like pieces of your real personality slipping into roles, or do you fully separate yourself?
I think there's always a kernel of what you can find in yourself in the character. Your job, is to understand that character like the back of your hand and have so much empathy for them. Almost like your best friend, right? Like you understand your next move, you know what their next thought is. And I think there's aspects you in those circumstances without those layers and without those things. It is two different people. And you are playing a character. And I think that's where I can differentiate it, where like the actions and stuff are not me, they're her, but they come from a real place,
Okay.
if that makes sense to you.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, yeah. And have you ever struggled to disconnect from a role?
No, not thus far. I mean, I think there's stuff that you can take in from every role you get, hopefully positive for sure. But sometimes you play roles and you're like, I don't want to communicate that way. They don't communicate the best. I remember when I was playing an angry teenager, and you know what I mean? That made me not want to be that way in my real life, which was great, dealing with emotions and stuff like that. But yeah, no, not thus far.
Incredible.
Exactly.
And have you ever felt the pressure to maintain a certain persona in your, either in public or in social life because of the role or the whole industry expectations?
I think that's a real thing. I think regardless if you're an upcoming actor, you're whatever, you could just be, you can doing plays. There's no degree in what if. I mean, I'm assuming when you're really, big in the public eye, it's even more pressure. But there's always pressure. I think even when people find out that you're an actor, like, oh, what have I seen you in? Oh, what have I this and what have I that? You always feel the need to upkeep, and you need to be in something bigger, and you need to be this, and you need to look a certain way, and you need to act a certain way, and you can't let anybody see you crumble, and you need to have your, you know, quote unquote shit together all the time, and then it's not you're still human at the end of the day, right? And if you can really go into the comparison when Hollywood is so glamorized, and again, you could really enter that game. I do a constant effort every single day to not get there. I've definitely had moments, and I'm sure I'll have more moments where comparison is the thief of joy for a reason, but it does happen. So I try not to put that pressure on myself, but I do feel it from time to time, 100%, because people, when you're not in big movies as well, people are like, acting, is that really going to work out for you? Is that a legitimate career until you're up there with an Oscar potentially that someone takes it seriously? But yeah, so it always feels a little bit degrading sometimes when you're maybe not in a place where people think you should be.
Mm.
And people think you're only credible if you're, Viola Davis. I don't know. Yeah, everyone's credible in their own art and how they represent themselves. You don't choose what shows up at your door, but you choose what you let in. So it's like you can't control what's going to come out of people's mouths, and you can't, someone always has something to say. But again, it's what you let in, and it's refining your own personal beliefs and knowing that you believe in yourself. You need to be your biggest cheerleader, because some people will say it without mean intention at all. You know what I mean? They just don't want you to lose hope in certain things, and they have no experience in that acting world. And, of course, you hear stories where it takes 20 years before you book something, right? It is an unpredictable career, absolutely. But it's keeping that faith in yourself that even when those things happen, it's what you have control over is the thought process that goes in your brain and the story you tell yourself. So you can choose to, be like, oh, they're only asking me this out of concern, and they're only asking me this because they've never let their mind open up on that topic.
Do you feel actors today have to perform even in their personal lives to stay relevant?
I didn't used to until actually the other day, Maya Hawke, who's in Stranger Things and who's in multiple projects, and she was in Inside Out 2. She's the one who's the voice of anxiety. I just think she's a genius, but she mentioned how a lot of the people getting roles have to affect on how many followers you have, which didn't necessarily surprise me, but at the same time did surprise me, because how does that equivalent to talent? I'm not saying that people who have a large following don't have talent at all. I just mean, like, someone could not be on social media and have an immense talent and be amazing for that role. Like, so I do think that the pressure is on actors is starting to be on there, especially since that interview came out. Because I'm like, there's no way this can be fully real. But it was, because a lot of them chimed in after that, and I think it's very disappointing, because it doesn't. A number of followers has no impact on, again, someone's level of talent. So I think, yeah, the pressure's been a little bit on for people, but I hope that I can get to a point where that has no effect on anything, and we can hire even more unknowns, because I love seeing an upcoming actor, right? Like, I love when, let's say, a big brand like Marvel casts a bunch of unknowns, and then then that makes them, that's the stepping stone, and that's what gets them in there,
Mhm.
right? Everyone started as an unknown, to be honest.
I do think that somehow we are living in this kind of Black Mirror episode.
Hmm.
I don't remember which one, but there was one in which kind of depending on your following base, it was kind of a little bit more like a currency to it, that you will get
Mm,
certain access to certain things based on how many likes you have, things like that. And somehow that
yeah.
is a reflection, because it is true. I mean, I still struggle to. I mean, I struggle with that every day. That
Hmm.
and it's so funny because even some actors, when I reach them, if they have like, I don't know, like 100 followers, 200 followers, they will say no because they don't feel they are relevant to it. And whenever that happens, I'm like, yeah, but you know what? I don't care if you have 1,000, 100, a million. At the end of the day, we are the same. You and I, we're both human beings. And the fact that you are pursuing something that's pretty cool, and I think every story needs to be told. But it's interesting how that some people will instantly feel less because of the amount of
Hmm.
followers they have. I mean, it's yeah, it's mental here.
Yeah, I think it's a huge mental game, and I think we need to stop putting that pressure on people, because it's just a number at the end of the day. It
And
doesn't
that
value in anything.
And let's be real, those thousands, 10,000, 100 million, whatever followers you have, the second you are not hot anymore, they're gonna switch to the next one, and then poof, you're done.
Yeah, no. Like, I think, it's incredible for people who have huge followings and stuff like that, and they can really make an impact. And I love when people use their platforms for amazing things. I just think if you put your value in stuff, it's like if you put your value in awards and not superficial, but more materialistic things, then what are you doing it for? Like, is it as soon as someone, exactly like you said, it moves on to the next it person, how are you going to take that? So I think it's, again, like a double-edged sword kind of thing.
What do you think that physical transformation for a role, either weight changes, stunts, training, do you think that affect somehow the personal life and well-being for an actor?
I think if you don't have the right support system around you, yeah, it could be, damaging for sure. But I think it's a great tool. I think what we have as actors is our bodies, right? It's all of this. Usually, again, like we've said prior in interviews, like a piano player has the piano. Someone working in an office, it's their desk, it's their computer. And actors don't have that. We have our emotions, our minds, our bodies. If you're playing someone that has been malnourished or is in poverty and hasn't eaten in days, then it can be a great way to get into character the healthy route. I think again, having the right support system around you, and you want it to be an authentic portrayal. It doesn't need to be. It doesn't need. You don't need to do anything to have an authentic portrayal. But I think for some actors, it's also an incredible thing to see what your body can do and the limits that you can push it. Brie Larson is a great example of like training for Captain Marvel. She ended up pushing a Jeep up a hill, a full Jeep up a hill, and she completely transformed her body and her mind, right? And like got so much stronger. And then now it's such a big thing in her routine. So yeah, I would just be scared on certain things if you didn't have the right, again, system and team and nutritionists and stuff around you, but I think it could also be a great tool.
And do you think there's a limit there's a limit to how much an actor should sacrifice for a role?
I think so. Yeah, there should be a healthy balance for sure. To just always keep that kernel of yourself and to not lose yourself, especially when we're talking about the body. I think like, there's special effects now. There's certain things that we can do. There's certain camera movements even to make it look a certain way. I think yeah, not overdoing it and putting your body through such a strenuous time. I think there should definitely be a healthy balance and a healthy limit for sure.
How do your personal relationships, family, friends, respond to your emotional intensity of your work?
I think a lot of them find it very interesting. I think I'm such an insightful person, and I think when it comes to being an actor, it's awareness almost first, and our jobs are kind of to study individuals, right? And I think like, especially where I come from and my family and friends, they're like, my thought process never would have even gone to that. You know what I mean? Like I always find the link in emotions too, and this caused this and this caused that, and they're like, I just feel emotions and I don't overthink anything and I don't try to be logistic about anything or whatever. So I think it opens their minds a lot when I'm like, oh well, this caused this and this was why she acted this way and he did this, and they're like, oh, like how interesting. Like, we tend to judge people so much on the surface because we don't know the stories, where like, our jobs as actors is again to understand these people and be so empathetic towards them. So if we don't have the story built up, then we have to, make one up in our minds where if you would have lived this life, you too probably would be acting this way. You know what I mean? Or that stuff. So I think it's just been opening their minds a lot. And sometimes they have questions and being like, what's this? Like, what does she go through? Like, what's going on here? And I'm like, oh, well, let me tell you, you know what I mean?
That is
So
cool.
yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's that is cool, and I'm happy that you have the right circle to it. That you have the proper circle that that supports you. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I have the best circle, truly.
And tell me, what do you think that would be the best piece of advice that you received on maintaining a healthy balance between acting and personal identity?
Oh, that's a great question. What is the biggest piece of advice? I was watching an interview with Zendaya where like she said such an interesting process where for her, when she's in the moment, when she's acting, it's not her actions. There's no repercussions to these actions because it's not her and it's a release for her. I think it's always just reminding yourself why you're doing it and almost doing it in the healthy way and to always keep that line of who you are. I think it's still doing the things that you love doing that are Arielle, you know what I mean? They're not Haley who I'm playing, right? Like she would have a different way. She would dress a different way. She holds herself a different way. I only named a random Haley, but maybe I'll play Haley. I don't know. So yeah, I think it's always like having maybe like a little set list of things that are very you and that you love doing and you keep doing it, even when you're in the process of finding the characters. So yeah, always like having that. It's like that work-life balance, right? Where you have certain boundaries with certain things.
And how difficult has been for you to apply that balance?
I think it's been difficult in moments. I think there's always going to be times where you bring work at home and you're so passionate sometimes about projects and certain things where they're over consuming, where it's your friends are like, okay, like we haven't had a dinner or a chat in a long time. And you're like, right, like I need to put this down. I need to come back to real life. And then, again, you don't want to be over consumed by anything. So I think there's moments for sure. I think there always will be, and it's a learning curve. And yeah, again, I think it's so important that I have an amazing circle around me to always, they'd slap me silly if I ever got out of my way.
There
So
you go.
yeah,
Fair
yeah,
enough. And tell me, what would be like the best quote you could give to finish up these two topics we just spoke?
an equal balance.
Okay. And would you say that that would be like the best title for this episode, or would you change it?
I feel like it would be a good title for this episode.
So we leave it as equal balance?
An equal balance of everything.
Okay. Okay. I like it. What can I
Hmm.
say? You know what? It's
Yeah.
incredible. I mean, I'm still amazed. Yeah, I mean, I'm basically, I love what you do. I love your career. I love like the whole energy you put to it. I mean, it's amazing, since the first time we spoke until this one, and to see how much, and to see like how many things you are working on, that you are doing your best to it. I mean, that's incredible. But also, the thing that I like the most is that you put the fun to it. You actually make sure that
Hmm.
the fun thing is always there, and that is incredible. And I think that is super, that is super positive. I think that it's people like you, and I'm still saying this every time, that it's people like you in this world who, besides giving us cool stuff, sure, cool films, cool TV shows, songs, whatever. At the end of the day, you are showing us that it is possible to pursue whatever you want in life, and that is super valuable and super powerful, especially these days, and especially right now in this crazy era we are currently living. That suddenly every now and then when I see the news, I'm just keep saying we're fucked. But but the fact that we can rely on people like you who are raising their hand by just by just creating it, by just having fun on it. It's like a light. It's basically like a beacon in this whole dark times we're currently living in. So
Oh, damn, that's the sweetest thing in the world. Thank you. I mean, again, like that's my biggest goal in life to just be a beacon of hope for people, and to also it's like an equal balance where I think it's great and we need to be aware of what's going on in the world, but it's also to not let it overconsume you because if you dive in that, it can look bleak, it can look gray, and it doesn't have to be at all. So there are still positives and there's still lights and there's great people in this world. So
people like you.
thank
So
you.
I love it.
Appreciate it.
I do
Oh,
want to
like
thank.
you. Hello.
I do want to thank also those who stayed the whole episode. Let us know what you think in the comments below. But also, on the description below, you're going to find all of Arielle's social media. Because by this point, I mean, come on, you already discovered why she's super badass. Let's keep making her viral. Let's follow her. Let's share some love. Hashtag Team Arielle. And again, thank you for making this happen. Keep shining out there. Keep rocking. Keep kicking ass. And I'll be definitely seeing you in the next one.
Mhm.
All right.